So what, am I like Asgardian or something? Dude, am I related to Thor?
Oh, no, I didn't say any of that.
Bruno!
Maybe.
Hello and welcome back to A Stark Contrast, where we discuss the differences and similarities from Marvel Comics to their MCU counterparts. And we are your hosts, Geoffrey
and Dai.
Hello.
Hi.
And welcome back, everybody.
How's it going, Jeff?
Going okay. Doing all right.
We're both running on
fumes right now.
yeah, for sure.
It's just
Fumes
tank
for
on
sure.
E. It's
Yeah.
like you know when you're driving your car. I don't know if you've ever done that. You're driving your car. You know you need to get gas.
Yep.
But you know exactly how many miles your car has left to make home.
Exactly.
So you know your car's on E, but you know there's a little extra left
Juice left.
after that.
If
and
you
you're like,
if you don't push the pedal
Yeah.
and you go eco, you're good.
if you
You're
just
good.
keep it steady and you know and you can get gas in the morning because you don't want to do it now. That's where my body's at.
For sure.
I was
100%.
just in SF for almost a week basically
Yes,
last
it's very
week.
true, yeah.
So,
Off the grid, in the music,
yes.
having a good time.
Yes.
God,
Bay
what was I
Area.
even doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're off doing that. I was in Raleigh.
That's right.
That's what I was at GalaxyCon. So
Uh-huh.
so yeah, wow. And that was off the heels of San Diego.
Yes. And then last night, or 2 nights ago, was it last night?
Last night
It was last night.
I went to Disney to
Yeah.
do Minnie's Moonlit Madness
Yeah.
with my dear friend Katie. Yeah, and it's quite literally at midnight until 3:00 in the morning. And then, I had to do some adult stuff in the morning, and I had to, do the job and take the kid to the vet and stuff.
I know.
So
It's a lot.
oh, but it's not over. That's my favorite part because I have to go. I'm going to Seattle next week. Last
Oh.
minute with Ms. Joelle Jones.
Oh.
Yes, the famed artist.
Nice.
That's how tired we are. From Catwoman and Wonder Woman, and Lady Killer, one of my newfound friends in the later years.
You were just in a marathon,
Americon, right? And then the week after that, Toronto
Damn.
for Fan X or something with
International.
Miss Tula Lote again.
Wow.
I have been summoned. That's what I call it. I've been summoned.
My gosh.
So we are all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're here.
We're here.
We're doing
back,
our thing.
Backing up for another one. Today's really good.
Today's
I'm excited.
We've been putting it off a little bit.
Yeah, we have.
Because we've been busy, but finally getting to it, and it's landing at the right time because I feel like right around the corner we have another slew of characters that are just going to
Yes.
come one after another.
Yes.
Speaking of which,
Mm-hmm.
the brand new series I Am Groot has officially dropped,
Yes.
and I definitely watched that.
I haven't
this morning.
I haven't watched it yet. I will either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe in you because I've been saying this, it is legitimately already my favorite. It's WandaVision's great. They're all great, but really
It looks super fun.
it's granted it is quite short. They are shorts, they're animated shorts, but it's the vibe of volume 2. It still feels like the cinematic universe in
Yeah.
every way, but it's full-fledged animation, which
Yeah.
is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's hilarious. It's so cute. Who knew that they could make a full series based on 3 words? That's all he says.
That's wild. And this is the first Marvel Studios animation project?
Technically, yeah.
Out?
Out. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's great. There are 5 episodes out now. And they promised 5 more that they confirmed at San Diego. So there should be 10 total. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's so good.
I'm excited.
I would love to hear what you think of it.
I'll definitely text you.
And then, of course, the week after this, She-Hulk finally drops.
Yes.
And they moved it from an original the 17th to the 18th.
Just one day later, yeah.
Curious, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did see that they released the dates for Andor. Maybe that has something to do
Maybe
with it.
I saw that too.
Yeah. So She-Hulk is coming out. So I assume that one way or another, we're going to be covering these 2 great greens in the next month or so. One, if not both. And then today, Jeff, is a very important day.
Is it?
It's August 10th. MCU Peter Parker's birthday, whoever that guy is.
Whoever he is.
Whoever he is. I don't know. I don't really know.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. It's like the running joke. Sony did a tweet too, and they're like, "Happy birthday to Peter Parker." Not sure who that guy is.
But
like,
sure, happy birthday to him.
Yeah,
He's probably a great dude.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about anything else before we jump into this one?
Nothing that I've seen before. I mean, as you guys know, Dai is the purest one of this duo, and me. I care, but I'm also kind of like, if I see it, I see it.
Yeah.
So I saw, because like Dai hasn't seen that She-Hulk 30-second teaser that showcases a new look at Charlie as Matt Murdock.
I'm so excited.
In the new suit and everything. Looks badass. I can't wait to see the reasoning why he, one, how he's back in the MCU as a player in the MCU, and then two, how his suit color shifted to what it is now. And I know that's the original. That's not original.
That's his original.
That's an original
suit.
color.
Yeah. And this is funny because I had mentioned last podcast on the left, in our last San Diego Comic-Con episode, and randomly they actually talked about Daredevil for like 30 seconds in one of their recent episodes.
Oh, really?
Because they're doing the Salem witch trials.
Oh, shoot.
Deep dive.
Okay.
And so like randomly Marcus, who is like essentially like the fact giver, he mentions the color yellow and how the color yellow is the devil's color.
Oh.
And so he was like, yeah. And so that's why Daredevil's suit was yellow at first. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Because the lore of the devil being associated with the color yellow is why they colored him yellow, but eventually
it went to
graduated to red because that's the more pop culture, like, I guess modern history is red, is devil fire. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's pretty neat actually. So okay, interesting. So I can't wait to see it, but I'm also just like,
I can't wait to see it in context and how everybody comes to play together.
Yeah. Super
saw leaks of Echo of
a few pictures from the set
of the man Fisk himself.
Are those from like now or are they just older? Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, I feel like it's recent since like if it's leaks, it gets at least within the next 24 to 48 hours. Same thing with like the Loki season 2. Like we see a lot of different setups for that.
Yeah.
But I will say Fisk.
Yeah.
Someone pointed out he looks kind of bigger.
Big, right?
Bigger.
That's the first thing that I thought too. He looked more hulking.
Yeah.
And like more like the comic book version.
Yeah.
And so
I just wonder how much of that is really
him,
Vincent. Do you know?
No,
Freya?
I think it's padded. But then
when I think of Wilson Fisk, I also think of the Spider-Verse version, and I'm like, damn, this guy is big.
And but that's based off of Bill Sienkiewicz's art, and he's from the comics, so it's like, I personally can't wait to see it because Vincent has done many films where he appears to be much more bulky than he is, but you see it in like Jurassic World. He's actually a pretty slim guy. Yeah, like he's just big.
Even when he first did the Netflix series, like I remember him. I remember being like, wow, like I know this is like a human, like grounded version of Daredevil. But then seeing like Vincent D'Onofrio play Wilson Fisk, but he still has that presence, big, gargantuan presence. Yeah, and I'm like,
and his voice.
Oh, like I love the way his voice.
Yeah,
sounds.
He's so fantastic.
Yeah. But excited for all those up and coming shows. A lot of things are in production right now and are going to be in production soon. I know Blade is going to be in production. I think in October this year.
It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, so
I can't wait.
A lot.
So much stuff.
A lot will be coming in the next.
And correct me if I'm wrong. They have not verified when What If season 2 is coming, right?
No, they have not.
Yeah, I think they're gonna start dropping right before She-Hulk is done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I'm curious when I Am Groot's second half is coming, but maybe they might wedge that after She-Hulk and then concurrently start to build up for What If. Yeah, and then Wakanda Forever. Yeah. So it's like
there's a lot.
One after
Once
another,
again, a
man.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because then Wakanda Forever, that's probably going to have a stinger or a trailer for the Guardians Christmas special.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's right.
Holy smokes. Yeah. Here we go.
I know. Let's get into it.
Let's go. Okay, so reminder, we're not experts. We don't claim to be, and we're just a couple of nerds nerding out. So this episode is going to contain spoilers for the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series because we are covering Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel.
Yes.
All right, so here we go. Created by Sana Amanat, Stephen Wacker, G. Willow Wilson, Adrian Alfona, and Jamie McKelvey. Kamala Khan made her debut. Do you want to did you see it? Do you want to take a guess when she was created?
Oh. Huh. I want to say she's like a newer player. So I want to go.
Definitely.
Oh, wow. I'm going to say 2000s? Or is that too
A little further. Up, yeah.
Mid 2000, like 2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually-ish. Yeah.
2011. 2000. Okay. When was Iman? Because I know she said she started reading that stuff.
Yeah. And she's 19.
Yeah. I want to say 2014.
Whew, so close. August 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Kamala Khan actually made her first appearance, quote unquote, in a cameo in a single panel in Captain Marvel number 14, August 2013.
Wow.
And so I wanted to mention when I was at San Diego Comic-Con, I stumbled by this booth. At first, I saw all these, slabs, all these graded comics, and I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Because, there's like rows and rows of them. But this one was curious because I'd never seen the booth before, and it's for an app called Shortboxed. So essentially, it's an app for actual collectors who have and own slabs, aka graded comics, that you can sell and trade through the app.
Whoa. So it's like an eBay strictly for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so everybody's kind of verified in their own way. And if you're like an actual retailer, you have your own storefront and stuff. And so it's kind of introduced me to this other side of pricing. So I wanted to kind of touch on that when it comes to these books for Kamala.
Yeah.
So for instance, you'll see there's a vast difference between some of these prices. But for Captain Marvel number 14, the highest that I found on, I think eBay, or no, on Shortboxed, 9.8 CGC for $700.
Nice.
With a cover drawn by Joe Quinones. He's fantastic. He's very well known for She-Hulk, Howard the Duck, stuff like that. He's great. Batman 82, 86, 85, whatever, 54. One of those. 92. The Michael Keaton one, he just did that too. Whereas a 9.4 of the same cover is going for $1,770 on eBay.
Huh.
So eBay is upcharging, or the people are upcharging a full grand for the same book at a lower grade. Curious. So now I'm like, ooh, this presents an interesting sort of comparison, right?
Yeah.
And the cover is the primary, as they refer to them, A covers. And we've talked about this very briefly, where variants. So A cover, B cover, C, blah, 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 all the way to like J.
Oh.
In some cases. Spider-Gwen. Meanwhile, a 9.8 CBCS variant of the Matter Connor is going for $11,000 on eBay.
Holy schmackers.
While a 9.6 CGC of the same book is $8,000 on Shortboxed.
Huh.
So that's a full $3,000 difference, which is like, whoa, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for 0.2 difference.
Difference.
It's kind of wild. And then, of course, the lowest grade that I found, they float around 150 to 375, depending. But that's Kamala's first appearance in a panel. So she's essentially a side piece character where she's in the panel, but you have no association with who she is. It almost doesn't look like her, to be honest. Like, you can tell they're of, Pakistani or Indian descent or, Southeast Asian, but there's no identifying thing that screams like that's Kamala Khan to me. Like, personally, it seems like it's an older person, an older character.
Interesting.
Because she has like hoop earrings and she's wearing jewelry and stuff. And I was like, that doesn't really.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like, but they did say, G. Willow Wilson, I think, actually verified that was they intentionally put that panel and put Kamala in that panel. And so it's like some, like Captain Marvel Carol is like trying to clear the area, and she's like, everybody get to the basement, and then Kamala happens to be there. Yeah. And so what is perceived as her actual first appearance, where she has a full page, is at the end of Captain Marvel number 17, which came out in November 2013. So just a few months later.
3 months later, yeah.
Yeah, 3 months later. Do you want to take a guess how much this book is worth now?
A couple thousand?
Just a couple?
Oh, damn.
So
say it. Go for it.
Okay. So highest grade of Captain Marvel number 17, 9.8 CBCS, $23,500.
That's insane.
23 grand. Whereas the lowest one I found was a 9.8 CGC, $45.
Whoa.
And that's a Kamala variant. And so you can just get that for $45 apparently. I was like, wow. That's cool. Yeah, but it's not the A cover. And that's the difference between what really matters in the terms of covers and all that. And then if you just buy one that's not graded, you should be able to get one for $20. So that's good. So dare I ask what your first exposure to Ms. Marvel was?
Oh, for me? Yeah, it's definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this your first, like, ever? You've never heard of her before?
Oh, okay, well, that was premature. The Avengers game.
Ah.
Yeah.
But still very recent, because Avengers
still
only
very
came
recent,
out
but
2018, 19?
yeah, definitely less than like 3 years ago.
Wow.
4 years. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure that. But
Yeah.
then I forget like when Miss Marvel was announced.
The show.
Yeah, the show. But
I want to say the 2019, 2020 when we were locked down.
probably. Yeah. Because I remember seeing the Miss Marvel in the Avengers game from Square Enix.
Yeah.
I think that for sure was
Yeah.
definitely the first time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
How about you?
Ooh. I think it was with the Captain Marvel book. I'm pretty sure I have Ms. Marvel number 1
Oh, wow.
in my collection. Yeah, I think it was definitely around the same time, because I've said on the show a few times, like, not a Carol fan as a kid.
That's right, yes.
Wasn't about Captain Marvel. But when they started interweaving these younger Avengers, I was like, oh, that's a pretty neat take.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's very different from what the history of the character has been. So it was a refreshing take, and I was like, okay, I'm open-minded for it. And it seemed fun. It seemed really fun. It was different. And then Inhumans were a big thing at the time. So she kind of got looped into that, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, of course. But so she was part of that whole whirlwind of, I guess, a culture shift, if you will, because it was officially moving forward from X-Men land into another form of mutate. And so, yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit, because it's pretty substantial when it comes to, especially Kamala, but also that period when it came to Marvel Comics and Marvel as a company, all the Fox stuff too. So,
oh yeah. So we'll discuss that.
We'll talk
later.
about that for sure. So as a result, I do not have trading cards, not physical ones at least, but I do have a couple of digital ones, and I'll show you. So here's the 2022 digital card from the Topps Trading collection card thing that I do.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, she's very similar to the way she looks in the show.
Yep, pretty much.
The only thing that I would say is different is like the cut of her top and then her shoes. Those are the only two things that are different.
Yeah.
Everything else, exactly the same.
Yeah.
This was the 2021 card. And of course, they pulled these art pieces from actual comics covers, B-sides, whatever. And so on the back of the card, it states, Pakistani American teenager Kamala Khan discovers she has shape-shifting abilities and takes up the mantle of Ms. Marvel in honor of her idol, Carol Danvers. She splits off from the Avengers to join the Champions along with other teen heroes.
Wow.
So is there anything in particular that strikes you from that statement that seemed off.
I mean, the shape shifting, obviously, for
Shape-shifting.
sure. They definitely changed her.
They changed
And
that.
they say that in the assembled.
And they do, yeah.
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 And it's like, I mean, yeah, like, come on.
Yeah. Like and that's kind of what I appreciate again about the new era of like Marvel Studios and MCU is that they're not sticking everything to the wall, but they're taking a more realistic approach, if that's even the word. So that's cool. I haven't been able to watch I haven't had time to watch the assembled yet, but I'm really I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, they said they really didn't want to, like, we didn't want her to have the same powers as like Mr. Fantastic and everything and all that.
Right.
They literally said that. And I was just like, yeah. And then shape shifting, like we have shapeshifters in the MCU already.
Yeah. And they're coming.
Yeah, exactly.
at full
So it's
force.
kind of just like, well, is she a Skrull? Is she this? Is she that? And she's technically, well, now she's a spoiler.
Yeah.
She's a mutant. And but they like what they did keep, especially in the series finale, in that season finale, when they had her do the embiggen line.
Yeah.
And she goes into this
The giant.
whole, like she just like using her Nor powers, the light, and I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like,
So crazy, right? Yeah, and and that's kind of always been the topic when it comes to Kamala, at least when it comes to her powers, which we'll talk about in full later, but like the comparisons are always like they always happen. Mr. Fantastic. And
bound to. Yeah.
She's got cosmic
It's like, how are you
powers.
gonna do this when there's this here that has this, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. So I think they made the wise choice, like many other aspects of the show that we're going to talk about today. But when it comes to Kamala herself, let's get into the basics. Co-creator Sana Amanat said that the series itself, like the comic books, came from a quote-unquote desire to explore the Muslim American diaspora from an authentic perspective. Because of course, Sana comes from her heritage is the same as Kamala's, and the creators, like G. Will Wilson, for instance, is Muslim as well.
Nice.
And so it's coming from the heart. And even Spider-Man / Fantastic Four author Dan Slott, the infamous writer of killing Peter Parker off and putting Dr. Octopus in his body, even said himself, for somebody that's written Spider-Man for, decades, he even said, like Kamala Khan is the closest character to the classic Peter Parker. Like there's never been a Peter Parker except for Peter Parker until Kamala Khan. And she has the same essence and attributes that Peter Parker had when he first started. And it's very reflective in both the comic book and the series. And like this, the comic books, I almost had trouble writing things out in my notes because it's so similar to the show.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's no narrative dialogue. Like we can just talk about the show and it would still be very close to the comics. They've changed some nuances, of course, but Kamala herself is a budding young teen from Cole's Academic High School, growing up in New Jersey with a penchant for superheroes. And her favorite is Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
It's pretty much straight to the point. And now here's where we start to get into the differences with the comic books. So while she's dealing with the woes of being a teenager, right? Like, for instance, in the first episode of the series, her whole deal is that she wants to go to Avenger Con.
Yes.
Right? And so in the comics, she wants to do what teenagers do. She wants to go to a party.
Yes.
She wants to see her friends. And it's almost kind of funny because I feel like in the series, they even teased her. The parents teased her like, oh, we don't want you going to parties and getting drunk and stuff.
Or doing,
She's like, I don't do that, And so in the comics, she actually does end up going to this party where all her friends from high school are. But it's a little different. And I feel like with the comic, they took more risk when it came to actually saying things and suggesting things. And so like at one point in the first issue or in the first few issues, she even has a thought bubble, like after she has it out with her parents. She's like, they act like I'm gonna go snort cocaine or something.
Oh,
and it's like they would
so they go
never,
they would
never say that in the
they
series.
went there.
Yeah, and even in the party scene, you know, she's handed a cup. And they're like, oh, and she's like, oh, what is it? And the guy's like, oh, it's just orange juice. And then she takes the drink. And then he's like,
definitely not orange juice.
and he's like, and it's laced with vodka. And then she vomits it back out. And so they have these more bold approaches when it comes to
the comics.
To the true teenage experience of awkwardness and trying to fit in. And so, as the issue carries along, there's a strange mist that comes over the city, and she's walking home alone. It's dark, and she's like, oh, this is really weird. And she starts to feel strange, and next thing she knows, she blacks out.
Oh my gosh.
And so when she Jeff's like, that sounds
been
familiar.
there, done that, but I didn't wake up with superpowers.
That's hilarious. Mr. Marvel. So when Kamala awakens, I can barely describe it because it's so trippy. So it's like Iron Man, Captain America, and Captain Marvel, like, are descending from the clouds, and they're like they're speaking in Urdu, and they're like chanting. She's tripping out. Out. And there's like a baby sloth. So there's tons of baby sloths. Throughout the comics.
Okay.
She loves sloths. And so they're everywhere. And so anyway, there's one with the Avengers. And she's like, Captain Marvel? And they're like, Kamala. And they're like just talking to her. And she's not realizing that it's this weird fog mist that's actually affecting her brain. And it's like getting to her. Next thing she knows, she's got powers. And so the mist was actually something called the Terrigen mist or a Terrigen mist. I don't know which G everybody prefers, but the Terrigen mist, which comes from a Terrigen bomb, which is a derivative of the Inhumans.
Yes.
So I did a quick breakdown because there's a lot to unpack here. So I said, let's double back real quick and unfurl the occurrences, okay? So this is kind of reminiscent of something we said in the Eternals episode, because that whole lineage is wild, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. Try and keep up with me here, right? A celestial finds primitive Earth. The celestial sees the potential in its inhabitants, aka humans. Kree and Skull are at war during this time. The Kree flee to Earth. The Kree then experiment on said inhabitants. Inhabitants become known as the Inhumans. The Kree flee because the prophecy is saying one of these powered people is going to end the species. And that's where we are today.
Wow.
So that's the most simplistic way of stating like how this all happened. So these Terrigen mists roll through and essentially are awakening dormant Inhumans.
Interesting. I see. That's where the conflict came with the finale and everything.
Exactly. And so with that, Ms. Marvel was born. And so speaking of Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, portrayed by Iman Vellani, who should be protected at all costs because she is so adorable and so like if I were a kid, I would want to be her best friend.
Yeah,
she is just the coolest.
The definition of a Marvel fan.
Love it. Soup to nuts. Her whole experience. Yeah. Even. And I wanted to show you this. So here's this Ms. Marvel #2 variant cover, right? It's very. It's actually done by my friend Jorge Molina.
Oh wow.
I helped him in Chicago.
Oh.
So he did this cover. And to find a great comparison, there is our little Iman in the same pose, which is crazy because she looks just like her.
Yeah, like next level,
right?
Man.
Like, wow. I love it.
That's crazy.
Isn't it great? I love it. So I'll post this on social, of course, but it's essentially Iman taking on the same pose as an actual Ms. Marvel cover.
Dude, I can't even.
It's incredible.
I can barely tell the difference.
Yeah, it's like I had to look when I first found this picture because I was just looking for. I think I was looking up details about her costume in general.
Yeah.
And then I saw this picture and I was like, wait, did somebody draw Iman? Because I'm familiar with the variant.
Or is that an actual?
And then I was like, oh, it's an actual picture because you can see the detail of her costume. Yeah. And it just, boom.
Wow.
Amazing. I wonder if Jorge's even seen that. I gotta be like, yo, dude, did you know?
Have you seen this?
Yeah. It's so incredible. But yeah, so the character first seen in the 2022 series created by Bisha K. Ali for television. And on the MCU timeline, I feel like you probably knew this, but it holds the first notable occurrences that take place in the year 2025.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
On the timeline.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
this show is set
Yeah.
in 2025, technically.
Technically,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So they've moved. This is
well 2 years
past,
after Endgame.
Yes. 2 years after Endgame, yeah. And so
2020,
it's
yeah.
past Winter Soldier. It's past WandaVision. It's past even... I can't remember if Shang-Chi was 2026 or 2024. 2024.
It was.
Because, yeah, which this blew my mind a little bit. Sorry to go off topic, but Shang-Chi and Falcon Winter Soldier take place at the same time.
These timelines are confusing.
Like the same week.
Yeah.
Which is like
just in different
in
areas.
different places of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when people are like, why didn't they go help? And it's like, well, in some cases,
We're busy.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally at
handling
the same
our own
time.
stuff over here.
Yeah. And so Ms. Marvel, takes place in 2025.
Wow.
And so for the uninformed, this was not only Iman's first role ever, but she's a huge
She's also not
Marvel
even,
fan. She's not even an actor.
She's not an actor.
Yeah.
I know that's what she said in the she's just like the biggest like Miss Marvel fan.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Because she's a genuine natural.
Yeah.
You cannot tell.
No.
You cannot tell. Which is I don't know. I'm so proud of her. I feel like I'm like related to her. I'm like, oh, my niece is so talented. I'm like, wait, I don't know her at all.
Yeah.
But she's so good. She's that good. So let's talk about Iman as Kamala for a little bit.
You can just tell. I think immediately off, like right off the bat, the first episode, you can immediately tell that she is Kamala Khan.
100%.
Like she wanted this role,
Yeah.
and she did. You know, she dressed up as Kamala
For Halloween
3 years prior, I think it was.
Yeah, she was like barely a sophomore or barely a freshman.
And now she is her,
I love that.
which is
That's
like insane.
That's the dream.
Like, if you find somebody that loves, if you find an actor, you know, like I say, but she is not even technically an actor before this.
Yeah.
But if you find someone that just deeply cares about a certain character and they will like act their ass off.
Yeah.
Like, man,
Yeah.
sky's the limit.
It's incredible what someone can do when equipped with that allowance, to kind of pay homage in that way. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's like, sure, she wanted it so bad, but there's a difference between someone who wants something so bad versus someone who was just genuinely born to do that.
Yeah.
And it shows so perfectly on screen. And so like, as every episode played out, because like people are online where the the series blows, and it's like, okay, well, first of all, you're probably not the niche audience for this specific storyline.
Yeah.
But the irony being that it's like, yeah, they're probably the people griping about Spider-Man half the time, and it's like, this is the new age Spider-Man, like truly
Truly a real coming of age story.
yeah, absolutely.
Like there's times where I think I told you this during the season, like she's in high school, right? Like she's a senior in high school, right? Or
Iman or Kamala?
Kamala in the show.
Yes. No, she's 16 in the show. No?
Oh, then definitely
Yeah, she still has 2 more
early,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's times where like Kamala would make decisions like she would make choices and I'd be like, what? Why are you doing
that?
Why would you do that? And I'm just kind of like, wait.
Yeah.
She's a literal child.
Yeah.
Like she's 16 in here. Like
Yeah.
probably me at 16 would probably react the same way.
If not worse.
Yeah, but me at
Yeah.
28 now, I probably would be like, I don't know. don't know if I do that.
Yeah.
But as a kid in high school, you probably understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and even though Ms. Marvel as a character in her world wasn't necessarily like something that like immediately attracted me, you have to admit the show is fantastic. Like
it is.
Anybody who's like, nah, it's boring. I'm just like, but did you really watch it?
It was
Yeah.
they did stuff different.
Yeah.
We talked about the way that they showcase texting
Yeah.
in a show.
that's true. Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to fall into
Yeah.
like a easy like trope to just be like, just show a texting,
Yeah.
whatever. But they did it in a way that's like engaging and like, oh, this is different.
And stylistic and in a unique way.
Yeah.
And also just the storytelling itself, because like at the heart of it, sure, she's a superhero, at the second half, but at the heart of the show and of Kamala Khan, she's about family.
Yes.
And they did a very, I think, what could have been complex and difficult way of telling her story as a family and as a Muslim American, and they did it so well, and they introduced the family and made them all just so likable and understandable, and it could have easily been something that was just too convoluted and too much for a casual viewer. But the fact that it's digestible and you kind of learn to love everybody, and it doesn't get too complicated, strange as that is to say.
Like throughout the whole show, I mean, I love the whole the gang of characters and friends and family. Like I love all her friends. I love her parents, her brother, like all of them. Like everyone was like, the family was like, so like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. And like we've said, I think in a couple of episodes, kind of leading up to this one, even though like we are not from the exact same Asian country.
Yes.
There are characteristics of their family that are very relatable, and maybe even beyond just being an Asian family, just in being in a family.
In an immigrant family
In an
also.
immigrant family, very much so.
There was times where I found myself like, I'd be like, Kamala, just listen to your parents, because like, come on, they just want, but it's like,
Yeah.
I also want you to be a kid. But I was like, let her be a kid. But it's also like, don't do it. I'm like,
Yeah.
So I think they did like that dynamic of the show was done really well.
Right. Okay, and then speaking of the family, I guess we can go ahead and start talking about them. So there are a few. You're gonna be surprised by how little they're actually involved when it comes to the comic book version. So Muniba and Yusef, who are the mother and father, portrayed by Zenobia Shroff and Mohan Kapoor in the show, aka Ami and Abu.
Ami.
And they're so cute, especially Abu. I love her dad. Her dad is really, and especially in the last episode when he's telling her about her namesake.
Yeah,
like,
dude, that conversation. Before we get too sidetracked, but like that conversation telling her the actual meaning of her name.
Her name. Oh,
and she was just like,
beautiful.
What?
Yeah, it's so good. And and they're just they bring such a great, I don't know, balance to the show, even while being like, parents, right? Like they're trying to hold her back from doing certain things. They're just being parents. But yeah, go ahead.
And I love that it's both her parents that give her identity.
Yeah, like there's no bad cop, good cop.
Yeah.
Like they're both a little bad and good at the same time.
Yeah.
But they're very much like involved.
Like her mom made her costume.
Yeah.
Looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like from her culture and like, that. And then her dad gives her name.
Her name.
And it's like, wow.
Her own little Ms. Marvel. I was like, waterworks.
It's like the two people that at the beginning of the season they wanted her to like kind of be like, let's just maybe just focused on your study, your school,
try to keep
and
her
everything.
grounded.
Yeah. But then you see that character growth and be like, she wants to be this.
Yeah.
But look, you are this.
Yeah.
Even without these powers, you are this.
Yeah.
And it's like so good.
It's so uplifting. I loved it. And they're a big reason why, even while watching this show, like I found like I wasn't like crying every week like I was with some other shows, but I felt deeply like touched by every episode because they did put so much heart into it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That it's almost disarming. Because she's so Kamala, and Iman as Kamala is just so spirited and so pure in her ways that it is very much like an original Peter Parker before life got to him, you know? And so the consistency in which they keep, giving her these like struggles, and then she does something that's like Haley Steinfeld actually, where they do this thing where they're like, it's like really cute.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh baby. Oh. And she's trying to like deal with it, but then you see her emerge and just be this incredible hero throughout it all. But so I really loved the mom and dad, and I love it when Aboud like dressed as Hulk. Like
that was cool.
My God, hilarious.
That was cool.
Hilarious. And then of course there's her brother, Amir Khan, portrayed by Shagar Sheh. And I'm not too familiar with how many issues he has been in, but I do find him more religiously oriented in the books. He's more faithful to the religion and being Muslim than he appears in the show. But I think they kind of changed it in the way, because like when he has the fiance and when he's leading up to getting married and how he wants to do it quote unquote properly, right? Yeah. I think that's like their resolve for not taking the deep cuts of the comic book version and making it a very modernized, relatable version that's dealing with the Kamala thing in 6 episodes. Yeah. Like, I think they cut the corners in a thoughtful way that didn't detract from the character, and he held his own, I think, too. He's really great. And then there's Nani. So Nani is a bigger deal, I think, and especially part of our conversation. So if you can believe it, no name in the comics.
Really?
Just grandmother Nani. And she's only in 2 issues.
Wow. So
Nani in the show, Sana Ali, she's portrayed by Samina Ahad and Zion Usman as a child. Maternal grandmother of Kamala, named after co-creator Sana Amanat. So this is a rare instance because like we've run into these characters and these parentals and paternals and maternals where they just didn't have a name. Yeah. And they never gave them a name. But in this special case, like Nani finally gets a name, and she's named after the co-creator. So that's like, that's so great. I know. That's so cool. I love that. Yeah. And so I think we were talking about this off mic before the show, but a big aspect of the show is the partition of India. Yeah. And so I kind of wanted to quickly go through this part about it. Since the series does greatly focus on this major real life event that happened. And so this is via Wikipedia. And so the partition of India in 1947 divided British India into 2 independent dominions, India and Pakistan. The Dominion of India is today the Republic of India, and the Dominion of Pakistan is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and the People's Republic of Bangladesh. The partition involved the division of 2 provinces, Bengal and Punjab, based on the direct wide non-Muslim or Muslim majorities. And then Wiki goes on to state the partition displaced between 10 to 20 million people along religious lines, creating overwhelming calamity in the newly constituted dominions. It is often described as one of the largest refugee crises in history.
That's insane.
Yeah. So the fact that they made it such a major plot point. Yeah. That's like it's a big deal. Yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever really seen or at least in that. Yeah. I've never really seen it portrayed. Yeah. And I can also say, I can say I don't know much about it. Yeah. Like knowledge wise, you know, so to kind of get like a better understanding and idea of what it was and how it affected certain religions and
Yeah.
families, and it's why the reason why we have certain countries today.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, wow.
And also in such like, I know it's like 1947,
Yeah.
but it's also like only in 1947. Like it's like recent history.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even 100 years
Yeah.
old. You know, that's wild.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Like,
they're obviously living people from this era.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my goodness, it's such a big deal. And so to bring that into the show, not that they would have avoided it completely, I think, but, and you know, to bring that into the show and the story behind Kamala as a character, it's a great testament and homage to the people and its culture and the heritages and yeah, the issues that were brought forth with the division. I think it is important to kind of include that history, because how is it any different than shedding light during Captain America's time with Hitler and all the other stuff? It's just as important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they treated it, I mean, my perspective is like nil compared to other people's,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought it's really great.
I thought it was too, because I mean, it was educational for me, because I like when I watched it, I remember I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know
Yeah.
what this is.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it was really eye opening.
Yeah.
To watch.
Yeah, I totally agree. Which of course then brings us to Aisha, the great grandmother. You know, not much is explored with Aisha in the comics. Same with Kareem. Citing a handful of references, so it's quite like Nani, where they're talked about, spoken about, but they're not nearly as ingrained in the storyline as they are in the series, which I think is a great contrast, a very good thing that they did for the show. So in the show, she's portrayed by Mewish Hayat. And yeah, we don't know too much about Aisha. Yeah, she was greatly affected by the partition, of course, but she's exiled from the Noor dimension. She met Kamala's eventual great grandfather, Hassan, portrayed by Fawad Khan. And then she's a member of the clandestines, trying to find the mysterious bangles that they found one of in the 10 Rings Temple.
Yeah. So there's still one other part bangle, right?
Yeah, there has to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
there's
man.
a lot there. Yeah, so it's presumed that Aisha is of Inhuman heritage,
Yeah.
in some fashion, on top of everything else. And so that the bangle, or whatever power is concealed within the bangle, is simply amplifying it, opening it up, waking it up from a dormant state. And so, like, when she meets up with the clandestines, who we're going to talk about a little later, yeah, it's interesting that they're from this other dimension completely.
Yeah, and they're just trying to get home.
They're just trying to get home. Yeah, that's all it
Yeah.
is. They're just trying to get home. So they're really pulling on the multiverse aspect once again, in a subtle way. Like they clearly don't have to talk about Doctor Strange just to talk about multiverse, let alone Loki. But yeah, so it's another dimension that we're seeing spoken about. And yeah, I mean, like, what else about Aisha? I absolutely loved her.
I did too.
I loved her.
I looked her up immediately. I was like, oh, like she's so great. She's
Yeah.
really pretty.
Oh, she's beautiful.
And a lot of those, like Aisha and
Yeah.
Hassan,
Yeah.
they're humongous Bollywood stars.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. I was just
Yeah.
like, there's no way. There's no way they weren't, right?
And like they were saying that at the Assemble, they were like, I can't believe we got these people because
Yeah.
they're huge in their own right.
Yeah.
So for them to come to do a Marvel
Yeah.
series,
Didn't they have a couple people from Moon Knight as well that were also like big deals?
probably yes.
In Egypt, I think.
Probably, yeah. I forget, but
I know, I can't remember. I
definitely.
can't place it right now, but
So for this one, I was like, man,
I love that.
yeah,
Really, really love that. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Aisha, or at least the clandestines, a little later. But for the rest of Kamala's periphery, of course, she comes with all these groups of friends and such that surround the character with to keep them kind of grounded, I guess, is the best example or best description of it. So there's Zoe Zimmer, who is portrayed by Laurel Marsden in the show. She's a whole lot meaner in the comics. She's so mean. I was like, oh, I don't like this. She really like bullies her. She's like fringe, Flash Thompson.
Like she doesn't hold back.
Yeah, she doesn't hold. She constantly makes fun of her like culture, her heritage, being a brown girl.
Oh wow,
it's pretty bad. But she in the books she dates this guy named Josh Richardson, who is in every aspect of the word a jock. And he is the one that's absolutely horrible to Kamala as well. Jeez. Maybe not as bad as Zoe, but they're very typical, like, you know, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, perfect life, and they like make fun of this brown girl that came from, you know, immigrant parents and stuff. So I'm sure you can imagine what some of the lines are, or some of the storylines even. But I will say, I didn't cover Josh too much because he isn't in the show. They've essentially scrubbed him, at least for the meanwhile. But in the books, he becomes an arch nemesis of hers, like a powered arch nemesis of hers later on down the line. But yeah, I mean, no MCU counterpart, so we're not going to talk about him today, at least. And, you know, God knows until maybe season 2. I don't know. But yeah, he is peppered throughout the comics, and if you'd like to read that, you definitely most certainly can. And then there's Nakia Bahadir, who is portrayed by Yasmin Fletcher, who I think is just so gorgeous. All these girls are gorgeous.
I know, I love her too.
She's so great.
Wow,
I like her a lot. So do you remember, maybe because you've watched the Assembled, but do they state if she's Turkish or not? Because in the comics, she is Turkish. She comes from a Turkish family.
I don't think they ever touched on it. No.
They didn't, right?
No.
I kind of assumed that she was perhaps, you know, her family was from Pakistan as well or something. But yeah, in the books, she comes from a Turkish family. She just happens to go to the same mosque as Kamala and her family. Yeah. And so, same thing. She looks exactly the same.
Oh, really?
Exactly the same. It's astounding. Like everything, like the colors, the way she wears her garb, it's like exactly the same. Like, and Yasmin is like a perfect casting for that character because she even stands like her. Like I was looking at panels today and I was like, wow, did Yasmin do that on purpose or like naturally? Because even in the comic book, like they both stand like at a slant with their arms crossed, and they have a certain like way of carrying their confidence. Yeah. Or their self-reassurance, at least. Yeah. That is like, dang, this is a really good, like, counterpart.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of love her. I want to see more for sure. And I didn't want to get too deep into her because, like, this is one of those cases where this show and this comic book character has such a great periphery of, like, co-stars or whatever you want to call them, that I almost want to do, like, a sub episode or something on them more in depth. And Nakia's or Nakia. I keep saying Nakia because of T'Challa in Black Panther, but I think the pronunciation is a little different. Yeah. But she does go by Kiki in the comics. And then I think she's what did she call her? What does Kamala call her in the show? Do you remember?
Oh man.
No, not Nani. Nani? Nanu?
So, I forget.
I can't remember. But yeah, so she deals with that a lot as well. Like she essentially went by a more Americanized name to kind of fit in better, but then she kind of grows into herself and grows into her culture a little better, to that she just goes by her given name. Yeah. So those are very similar attributes, comic book to show. And then there's Bruno Corelli. So in the books, he's actually quite different looking than he is in the show. He's got long hair. He's taller. He almost looks older than Kamala, to be honest. Yeah. I'll try to bring it up. But he's very protective of her. Fringe boyfriend / crush in the books. And undoubtedly her biggest cheerleader at the end of the day, which is always nice to have. And on the show, he's portrayed by Matt Lintz, who I think you know this as well. he was like on the short list, or at least in the running for the role of Peter Parker in the MCU, which is kind of crazy because now I can't unsee it. Like every time I see him, I'm like, he could have been Peter Parker. But here's this. Okay, so here I'm gonna show Jeff a few pages from the book. So this is when her tripping out.
Oh, it's hilarious.
The Terrigen Mist and all that stuff is going down. And then if you go forward or back, you'll see Bruno at one point, and he's kind of got the long Keanu hair. And yeah, so Bruno is kind of an ongoing. Yeah. Bruno's kind of an ongoing, like guy friend boy.
I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it.
And at one point he does get a girlfriend, and Kamala starts to get a little weird. And so it just proves that it plays that undertone of like that keeps carrying the human attributes of the story while she's having all these fantastical battles as an Avenger, But she does end up having some love interests in the comic books. And so we're going to talk about just a couple of them, even though the first one here doesn't even have an MCU counterpart. But in the comic books, Kamala kind of had a thing with Samuel Alexander, aka Nova, or Kid Nova. He was part of the Nova Corps. And actually, I don't know if you know too much about Sam Alexander, but he was essentially found by Gamora and Rocket while they were looking for his father. And so they taught him to be a Nova Corps like soldier or pilot, if you will. Yeah.
Wow.
He's got a great backstory. I hope we get to actually examine him one day. But yeah, sadly, no MCU counterpart. ...
Yeah.
So, fellow Xandarians, have been featured in James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films. But this character in particular has yet to surface. So, fingers crossed, we'll see Sam in one way or another. Which leads us to another non-MCU counterpart, Miles Morales, Spider-Man.
Wow.
So he and Kamala too also have a little, a little crush here and there. During the 2015 run of Secret Wars, the multiverse is essentially destroyed and then rebuilt. And so Miles' home of Earth 1610 was destroyed, and he was forced to move to 616, where he meets Kamala during Civil War II. And that's the one where Captain Marvel versus Iron Man. And I was actually Team Iron Man that time. Yeah. And they met there and they got along quite well. And they later create the super team, the Champions, which I've mentioned twice so far. But nothing more transpires romantically. Like they're just kind of like in the periphery. He thinks she's cute. They think they're cute. Really cute, like genuine, like pure stuff. No MCU counterpart for Miles just yet. But never forget his uncle, Mr. Donald Glover in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Forget about that.
Right? And he says Miles. He says Miles in that movie, which is like, oh, what?
So where is he?
Where is he, man? Which then brings us to a more recognizable name, Kareem, the Red Dagger. So I wrote a bunch of notes down here because it is quite a thing. They even had they had many issues together as, Ms. Marvel and the Red Dagger type thing. So in the books, Kareem is a teenage vigilante who protects the streets of Karachi at night as the Red Dagger, which is pretty much who he is in the show.
Yeah.
And similarly to the show, Kamala crosses paths with Kareem when she and her family take the trip to Pakistan. And then Red Dagger and Ms. Marvel later team up while on duty, though the two were not aware of each other's identity. So in the books, it's which is kind of funny because personally speaking, Kamala is kind of like Clark Kent and Superman.
Sure. Yeah.
But so they didn't know each other. They were just like, okay, we're going to fight together and defeat these bad guys. But eventually, when Kamala goes back to Jersey City with her family, Kareem then goes and then he attends Kamala's school as an exchange student. So that's very similar to Kamran, who we're going to talk about just a second. So I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen in season 2, maybe, because he is still across the sea. He's in Karachi still. So whether or not he comes over as an exchange student, who knows? But
also he's which is the next person on this list.
Yes.
He's there. He's helping him.
Yeah.
So
exactly. That's also right.
Yeah.
So there are all these avenues to bring them over. But yeah, eventually Kareem and Kamala discover each other's identities, and they date, or their first loves in some capacity in the comics. And of course, portrayed by Aramis Knight in the show. Not much is known about Kareem, I guess, aside the details above, but he's a member of the Red Daggers versus the Red Dagger. That is until Walid, portrayed by Farhan Atkar, dies. And then he becomes the lone Red Dagger. And so essentially the Red Daggers, their goal is to protect Earth from the clandestines. So so like Jeff, you just said, now Kamran has been kind of like dropped into his lap to take care of or cultivate.
Hey, like what you do with what you do with what we're given is up to you, type of thing. You know?
Exactly.
Find guidance, because he has nobody now, technically, his mom, and everything. So it's who knows what path he decides to choose.
I know.
While being trained or taken care of by Kareem.
Yeah, because it's kind of one of those moments where you're just like, okay, well, Kamran, he could be the innocent one, and he's learning the ropes, while Kareem is more like dangerous and such. But honestly, I feel like it's going to be the opposite. I feel like Kamran is going to come out of the woodwork, learn his power, or learn where he sits on the food chain, as they say in Jurassic World. Yeah. And then, kind of flip the script on everybody, which could inevitably bring Kamala or Ms. Marvel and Red Dagger together. But yeah, speaking of Kamran, in the comics, of all the characters, he may have the most stark contrasts. So from the show, for instance, Kamran, comes in as an exchange student, the hot exchange student, right?
Yes.
Complete with emerging from the pool or whatever the heck he did.
Yes. He jumped into it and it came out all,
And so in the comics, Kamran and his parents, plural, so he had both a mother and father, or mother and mother, who knows, but his parents were actually close friends of Kamala and her family. So he essentially grew up with them up until he was about 5 years old. The family moved to Texas. Things went by per usual. Yeah. The family moves back to Jersey, coincidentally, and I mean this truthfully, the same night that the Terrigen Mist rolls through the city.
Of course.
And as a result, his latent powers are activated, because he also is Inhuman. So, despite the closeness that Kamran has with the Khans, and let alone Kamala, he betrays her and even lures her into the hands of an adversary named Lineage in the comics. So, this is kind of what leads me to believe he might do something.
He might turn.
Yeah, because he kind of does that in the show with his mother. Yes. Right? Like he's like, oh yeah, blah, 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 trying to play like I'm the cute hot guy. Yeah. And then it's like, oh wait, actually.
Yeah. But he was also unaware of like his mother's intentions, I guess. Yeah. But now it's kind of like, well, I don't know who to trust anymore.
Exactly.
So once I learn how to control these powers that I have, I'll figure out what I want to do for myself.
Exactly. So Kamran in the show, portrayed by Risha, what more can be said? He's the son of Najima, and he absorbs her powers by the end of the season, although his are far more unpredictable and unstable than Kamala's. Yeah. So we'll see what he's all about soon enough. And then for main adversaries, people are so gray for a bit until the final episode, so it's not really a definitive like there aren't definitive adversaries, but I gotta say, damage control and the DODC,
Those guys.
huge adversaries.
Oh, yeah.
So, real quick, in the comic books, they were originally owned by Tony Stark and Wilson Fisk
Huh.
together, each owning half the stock of the company, though Stark felt uneasy cooperating with Fisk, a known notorious criminal.
Yeah.
So they created this unit called Damage Control Incorporated.
Yeah.
And then in addition to Stark materials, they also collected materials that were just like, like, what do you call them? Junk
Yes. Wow.
from Reed Richards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're sharing a look here.
Okay.
And then Anne-Marie Hogue remains consistent as their leader, both in the comic books and the MCU, and no direct correlation in the books. Otherwise, like there's no reason in the books that they go for Kamala Khan or for superpowered people in that vicinity. You know what I mean?
Got it.
But they are all over the board. They've been noted in Civil War, in World War Hulk, even House of X. So they're kind of like peppered throughout series, different mentions, And then when it comes to the MCU, United States Department of Damage Control, aka the DODC. Mm-hmm. And so for you, my friend, I have a pop quiz.
Oh, gosh.
It's been a while since we've given you a pop quiz, too.
It has been. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I got to do it here. Do you remember?
Bring it on.
Simply said, do you remember the first time we saw the DODC in the MCU?
Ooh, that is a great question.
I think you got this.
I want to say, I think it's Spider-Man Homecoming.
Too easy. Too easy. Dang. Correct. 100%.
Sick.
Back
I'm
on
back,
the board.
baby. I'm back.
Too easy. Oh my gosh. Do you remember when they were first mentioned?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
The Department of Damage Control.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Avengers Age of Ultron? Oh, wait, no, that's the Iron Legion. Damn. I'm thinking about the Iron Legion. Ooh. Wow. Wait, was it? Oh, God. It was before Homecoming?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Wow.
It's been a minute.
A mention of the damn Department of Damage Control?
Yeah.
I feel like it's someone saying, but they were formed after S.H.I.E.L.D., no?
Yes.
Okay, so it's after Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to spare you this because this is the part where it gets a little muddled, right? Because
I feel like once you tell me the answer, I'm going to be like, I should have known that.
I don't know, because even me, I was a little perplexed by this, right? So they were first mentioned in Iron Man.
Okay.
Which is a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
So that suggests that they've been doing this. They've been collecting all the random parts.
Yes.
Because, like, in Iron Man, like, for instance, the missile. Mm-hmm. The missile goes into the ground. Well, who collects the shrapnel and stuff?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. So they were first mentioned in Iron Man, believe it or not. But the group did not appear until, like you said, Spider-Man Homecoming. And then again in No Way Home.
Yes.
And so since then, in Marvel pop culture as it is, they've since appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., now Ms. Marvel, and are set to make an appearance in She-Hulk. So I'm like, interesting stuff. And so, in the MCU, like the comic books, they're led by Anne-Marie Hogue, who first appeared. Do you remember where she appeared?
Yeah, I do, because it was on. I literally saw it on Twitter today.
Oh, you did?
It was in the No Way Home, right? No.
No.
Whoa.
Hoko. It was in Homecoming.
Homecoming? Oh
Yeah.
my God. Why am I Wow, I haven't seen Homecoming in a while.
But I bet the minute I start talking about it, you'll be like, oh yeah.
Maybe, probably.
She's the woman that's kind of like, she's got the white grayish hair that goes up to Adrian Toombs.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, on behalf of the DODC, I'm here to...
Oh, that's right.
That's Anne-Marie Hogue.
Okay. Oh, so,
Yeah.
so she's been in the MCU for a minute.
Yeah, it was like, wow.
Wow. She has one of those recurring role type of things going on.
Exactly. And then there's a few of them too, because there are a few members. They're all just kind of like, there's a set that are featured in the Spider-Man films. They're not always the same people. Rather, they're not always the same characters. But yeah, them as a corporation or institution or whatever you want to call them, have been around for a bit. And so, basically they're a federal executive department that deals with enhanced conflicts. Initially a subsidiary of SHIELD, but after the Battle of New York was made into an executive branch of the United States government. So yeah, they're in collaboration with Stark Tech now.
Interesting.
Now collecting alien technologies. And then notable members, at least in the series, are Sadie Deaver, portrayed by Alicia Reiner. Barry, portrayed by Ethan McDowell, and Pete Cleary, portrayed by Ariane Moid. Yeah, they're so frustrating, but they're played by incredible actors. So it's like, oh, I want to hate you, but you're so good. Yeah, it's interesting how that all comes to play. And before I forget again, I meant to make note of this earlier, but speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is also the first semi-MCU canon that actually acknowledges the Terrigen Mists. And so that's because you rewatched it, right?
Which one? The
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Didn't you say you watched it or you were watching it at one point?
I watched it.
Yeah.
I think the first couple seasons I watched.
Yeah, because do you remember the season, I think it's 4, maybe 3, when Quake,
Yes,
Daisy, Sky, whatever you want to call her,
don't get me started.
Yeah,
that shit threw me off so bad during that time. I was like, what's her name? Quake, Daisy, Sky. What the?
Well, because they totally had originally intended her just to be Sky, a hacker, and then they're like, wait, there's potential to actually make her canon. So they changed her name and they brought in her mom and all that stuff. Anyway, there's that whole storyline where she gets exposed to the Terrigen Mist and she goes into the weird rock cocoon thing.
Yes.
And emerges as Quake.
Yes.
So
yes. Wow.
So imagine, if you will, at least in comic books, that's the same day. Well, I don't know if it's the same day, but that's the same process in which Kamala becomes Ms. Marvel in so many words. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's all it takes is that tiny, tiny mist. And then it's like seconds later, boom.
I'm a hero.
But you know who aren't heroes necessarily are the clandestines. Led by Najima, portrayed by Nimra Bucha. Also includes Adam, Fariha, Salim, and of course, Aisha. Yeah, and so the clandestines, they're just essentially this group of unified individuals from the Noor dimension who were exiled to Earth.
Yeah.
I thought they were great. Nimra as Najima was like terrifying.
Just a tad. I was like, what is this woman
She's
gonna
kinda
do? Like, she didn't care. She was like, I just want to get home.
Yeah.
If I gotta kill you for it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, right. And it almost kind of makes you wonder, like, what is home? What is home like that you want to get home?
Yeah,
so
like
badly?
why do you need to go back to the Noor dimension?
Right. And of course Noor dimension. So I'm curious if they're going to examine that dimension a bit more in the next season, or are we going to see it somewhere else?
There was so much left unsaid that they can go, because I remember reading interviews and articles. I think the writer, they had this whole backstory on like the Red Daggers and the people of the Noor dimension and like that place, but it was just didn't have time, or it was just left on the cutting room floor type of thing.
Yeah. But I will say that it even though they didn't examine it as much as I would have expected, it didn't feel like there was loopholes or things missing. Does that make any sense?
I agree, yes. Because there's a difference between I want to know more and do I need to?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think so I think it was okay, because at the end of the day, it's Kamala's story.
Exactly.
And as long as we get, I mean, for me, it's kind of just like, as long as we get like a flavor of like what she's running into, and like, and we're like, oh, and then it's a comic book reference, and it's okay, that means there's room to explore that in the next, part of this story.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess let's chat about the clandestines with Kamala for a little bit. I love those scenes in quote unquote Pakistan, or at least Karachi. Yeah. Did they cover in The Assembled whether or not those were filmed on set, where were they filmed in?
Oh, so the flashback scene where
the trains,
where the train and where the partition was happening.
Yeah.
Also in Thailand.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Also in Thailand.
Wow.
I think that even like that the chase scene and that stuff too.
That's all in Thailand.
Thailand.
Wow. So they went there. Well, they at least went to Thailand. That's amazing. Najima again. Like Najima throughout the entire thing was just very. Yeah, she was like loose cannon, like
menacing,
trigger happy, menacing. Yeah, like you honestly didn't know what she was going to do next. I was like, I was expecting her to like kill somebody, like really like kill a few people, not just Aisha, but like, and I didn't even expect her to kill Aisha.
The leader of the Red Daggers.
Walid. Yeah, that is also true. But I like thought she was gonna kill like somebody. Like,
if she were to kill like one of like Kamala's friends
or something.
Oh my god, I would have been like oh my god.
Yeah, like she was. Yeah, they were actually very menacing. They were pretty scary. Yeah, in the very end though, like as a true hero does, Kamala wanted to save her and save her from being essentially absorbed into the Noor dimension with the power, what do you even call it? The Noor power?
The Noor dimension. Yeah.
Yeah, the light power stuff. Yeah. I don't know that Najima would have ever changed character at all. I think she was very much rooted in her ways. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she just wanted to get home, but now she's passed on her powers to her son, which, by the way, age differences. Is that a loophole? Because if you think about, okay, so Aisha had Sana, which is essentially Nani. Mm-hmm. Then Nani had
Kamala's
mom. But Kareem is the same, is Najima's like supposed first son. Mm-hmm. So is he time displaced? Do we think he's time displaced, or is he just a very young son? Because he's essentially supposed to be the same age as Kamala, or is that a facade? I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
I don't remember they were talking about that at all.
No, I don't think so. No, it was like older brother, mom, grandma, Aisha, and then and then it's kind of like the clandestines are like kind of like ageless, I guess, timeless.
Right.
They don't really,
So I kind of wondered if that was part of it. Maybe he got that, but I don't know. Interesting. Okay, just wondering. So I mean, I doubt we'll see her again in the series, but she was a great aspect. Yeah.
Well, now part of her lives through Kamran now.
Exactly.
So we'll see what if
Kamran.
that plays out.
Sorry, not Kareem. Kamran.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. So powers. Let's talk some powers. So one of the biggest beefs of the show, of course, like we mentioned, was the change of the origin of Kamala's powers. When in fact, stated by Iman herself, Kamala was initially supposed to be a mutant. And this is on Wikipedia. Sana Amanat has said it. G. Willow Wilson has said it. They've all said it, that essentially what had happened, in so many words, they're clearly not saying this verbatim because it is kind of like a it's a tricky subject. But basically what happened is, simply put, it seems to be that the company's politics at the time, and essentially attempting to dampen the significance of mutants because they did not have theatrical rights to them, made them deter in favor of something else. So when they were conceptualizing Kamala in 2013 or 2012 or 2011, whenever it would be, they were like, okay, well, we could make her a mutant. But here's the thing, if we ever want to make like a movie about her, we might not be able to do it because Fox has the registered rights to the M word. Right? Yeah. Which is kind of sad, but it is very true. And that's why they did call, Pietro and Wanda enhanced. That's why they introduced the word enhanced. Yeah. So when it came to the comics, they were like, that would have been great, but we're going to come up with something different. Hence the Inhumans. So she became an Inhuman instead, taking her on a different course entirely. But her powers and, on the show and in the comics are quite similar. All things aside, they're just a little different from where she's being powered from. Yes. So let's talk about the MCU version real quick. The cosmic origins. So it started with the bangle or the bracelet. And then it kind of I remember like texting you every episode. I'd be like, I think this is the thing at the stinger at the end of Shang-Chi. I think this is the thing. I think this is the thing they were looking at, which I still stick to. I 100% still do, especially because they give us the 10 rings like Easter egg. Yeah. I was like, oh, dude, they're officially linked. We're going to get some like Asian superhero action. This is going to be dope.
Oh, that'd be so sick.
I'm so ready. But yeah, and then, it's later revealed in the final episode, at least, that the powers are simply enhancing a latent that the bracelets are simply enhancing a latent genetic mutation, likely passed from Aisha herself. So it's part whatever the Noor dimension magic that's coming down the lineage. And then she embiggened.
She did.
So what do you think? What do you think about the cosmic look of the powers, which is really what set people off? Like the fact that it's like crystal and prism looking versus her just being stretchy and big.
Well, I mean, it's like, put yourself in, I guess, in the position of creating, of bringing this character to life, right? It's like, okay, her powers are incredibly similar to Mr. Fantastic from Fantastic
100%,
Four.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, what's the point of? So now you're at a crossroads of like
negating him almost.
Well, yeah. So what's the point of either introducing him or what's the point of introducing her?
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay, well, Mr. Fantastic is known for this, but he's also like the smartest man in the world.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, he can keep that, whatever, because that's what he's known for. Like that's pretty much it, right?
Stretchy genius.
That's pretty much it. That's all you've seen. That's all we've known. Yeah. Whereas Kamala
and then invisible jet.
Yeah. Whereas Kamala, she has that, but also she has the shape shifting.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like, okay, well, how can we, keep her to the core of who she is, but give her powers in a way that makes sense. And I think they did that really well. It's family oriented. Like she got it from her family and it's in her genes. It's in her mutated genes.
Yeah, I agree.
And it works out, and she can still keep those same powers that are true to her comic book counterpart. Well, then with the embiggen, like, but like instead of like she's infected with something, it's like enhanced. The bangle enhances it, but then we find out like she has that mutation gene, which we'll find out about later at some point.
Right.
But still pulling powers from that Noor dimension that got introduced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a new way. It's a new iteration of the character in a different form of media.
Yeah.
Like not everything has to be comic book canon.
Yeah.
You know, like you
Yeah.
can invent new things, and we've seen that for over a decade already.
Exactly.
You know, in the MCU.
Yeah, it's not like they just
Yeah.
newly decided to not do.
I mean, we talked
exactly
about this in the
same thing.
Eternals episode.
Yeah.
Imagine if
Yeah.
all the Eternals had those exact powers they had
Yeah, the exact
in the comics.
exactly
The
carbon
world
copies
would
of each
be
other.
dead. Like there would be no competition. The Avengers
Yeah.
wouldn't exist.
They wouldn't.
They literally have every single power known to cosmic man. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100% agreed. 100%. And you know, I will say it also kind of surprised me, right? Because I kind of almost expected more like actual cosmic imbuing, like Captain Marvel, right? Like, because you know, Captain Marvel essentially in the MCU got her powers from the Tesseract,
Yes.
right? And so I almost expected something in that level or that realm of cosmic. But honestly, I don't think it's not quite that. They did it by introducing the dimension and having these things link back to the heritage aspects. Kind of derailed that theory, you know, for me at least, and I know people are still about it, but you know.
Basically.
I think they did a very good job about it. It's different, but it's cool. I can get used to that. So in the comics, believe it or not, she's got bioluminescence, which I think kind of actually lends itself to the MCU counterpart, because that would account for the shimmery, shiny.
That's light.
Yeah, the light stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course, like we mentioned before, or have mentioned, she's also polymorphic, and that leads into how do I say this? Morphogenics.
It's
morbid
morphin time.
Oh my gosh. See, I actually said it. That's my bad. You said morphin. I said morbid.
Nice.
Got me. So Kamala's cells manifest mutable properties due to the fact that she's able to share her mass through time with different versions of herself. So there's this whole thing in the comics where it's like theorized that technically every time Kamala is stretching, she's like manipulating time in some way. So she's time traveling. It's a lot.
The post credits in the season finale,
Yes.
she doesn't time travel,
Right.
but she does.
She's displaced herself somehow.
I'm so curious on how that is going to get explained.
Yeah, right?
I was just glad to see my girl. I was like, Brie Larson, baby. She's back.
Yeah, so there's this whole thing in the comics that on a molecular level, Ms. Marvel time travels whenever she uses her power, because Kamala can stretch, deform, expand, or compress her body or parts thereof into any contiguous shape that she can imagine for a variety of uses, including, and I wrote these all down, elongation, size alteration, accelerated healing factor, and appearance alteration. So, in I think issue 2 or 3 of the first Ms. Marvel series, after she gets her powers, she quite literally shapeshifts into Ms. Marvel. I mean, Captain Marvel.
Oh.
So when Carol was still Ms. Marvel, because Carol had the name first,
Okay.
there was Captain Marvels before Carol. They were all men.
Correct. Yes.
You know how this goes. So when Carol was still Ms. Marvel, she had a very iconic black, like, leotard that she
Okay.
wore with thigh-high boots, a red sash around her waist, the Thunderbolt-esque thing in the middle, and a mask. And so when Kamala's having the conversation, when she's tripping out, she's having the conversation with Captain Danvers.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, well, I want to be a superhero like you, and I want to wear like cool boots, and I want to like have that kick bodysuit. Like, she says it by name. So when she reawakens and she shapeshifts, that's the Ms. Marvel she becomes at first.
Nice.
So she actually uses her powers in that form, blonde hair, blue eyes, and everything.
Yeah.
But she can actually shapeshift into other people at will.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as her healing factor, or she's like not hurt.
Yes.
She can shapeshift into anybody.
She's basically a squirrel.
Yes. Right? Like in some weird way. That's actually.
So now it's kind of like, well, see, there you go. That's another example of like,
yeah.
she kept that power. It would have been like great.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And so that allows her to manipulate her image so much that she's even impersonated Rhodey in the comics.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And had a full-fledged conversation with Tony as Rhodey. But it was Kamala.
That is hilarious.
So I was like, oh, that would have actually been kind of funny to see her kind of go through those, but not necessary.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to reintroduce that in another way or continue it depending on if you want to talk about Krees or not, right? So scrolls or not. And, of course, despite all her powers, she does have some weaknesses like EMPs. So they did show that in the show, right? Like that was what that gigantic gunny thing was, right? Yeah. So in the comics, it's the same. Electromagnetic pulses and overexerted healing both exhaust her powers. So Kamala will just stop working .exe. Like it's just stop working. She can't function.
Everyone needs a weakness.
Everybody. And so I actually have another pop quiz for you. Woo.
Oh man,
this one's fun. This is
bring it on.
So when it comes to Kamala, when Ms. Marvel goes large, when she embiggens, how much can she lift?
Oh my gosh.
It's another lifting.
This is that was it the same as Thor one that you asked me?
Yeah, I think it was Thor, Spider-Man, Winter Soldier.
How much can he
Captain
lift with
America.
his arm? Yes.
Yeah. So I do have multiple choices. So the options are 75 tons, 25 tons, 210 tons, or 155 tons.
Oh my God.
And for reference, Cap can lift about 1 ton.
Yeah.
And Spidey can lift about 10.
Okay.
So
Damn.
Immediately,
so she's
nerfed both Captain America and Spidey when it comes to lifting.
Man.
Yeah. So 75, 25, 210, or 155.
Well, in the show,
yeah,
she did stop that truck.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say I don't know if that's the maximum. But man, that's definitely up there in the tons. So we got 75 tons, 25 tons, 210, and
155.
Okay. For some reason, my gut says. Okay, now I'm questioning my gut. Because that's a lot.
It's a lot.
I want to say 25.
Okay, is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Incorrect.
Is it 75?
It's 75.
That was my gut feeling, damn it!
You should have trusted yourself. Yeah, so Kamala can lift, or she can lift about 75 tons in her embiggened form.
Pain.
Which is literally 75 times as much as Cap.
That's a lot.
And seven times as much as Spidey.
I don't even know what weighs 75 tons.
Right.
Bro.
So it's like, wow. But I guess that's like, if you take a look back at Scott Lang in Civil War, when he was giant as Ant-Man, like you could technically think the same, right? Like they become a little slow, but he was really holding his own, and he's just a normal human being.
Yeah.
So to think of Kamala at that scale with her powers on top of it.
Insane.
Woo, yeah. Ms. Marvelous is more like it.
Love that.
Amazing.
Can't
right?
wait to see her powers
yeah.
maximized at some point.
I know.
I can't wait to see how all three of those Marvels in the Marvels movie that comes out 2020.
Three.
Three.
I want to say 3.
No, 3. Oh, end of 2023, right?
Yeah, end of summer 2023.
Okay, so I can't wait to see how they all like. We have Captain Marvel, Brie Larson. We got Monica Rambeau. with her powers.
Yep.
And then we have Kamala Khan, the Marvels. That's so awesome.
It's gonna be so great.
I know.
Can't wait. So yeah, speaking of Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers, and her suit, we're gonna talk about Kamala's suit. Or her threads, really, her aesthetic. So
yes,
culture and heritage are obviously a huge aspect of the character's design and her own representation. Like you said earlier, Jeff, like her mom, Ami creates the final suit, despite Bruno's efforts in the beginning of the show, and incorporates all these details and facets of not only their culture, but the soft thunderbolt look that is part Kamala herself, like when she breaks her necklace, and that's what's left. Like it's such a clever way of just
I know. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and really making it her own. And to be honest, I feel like Ami's like not dislike of Kamala's loving Captain Marvel, but just that her desire to want to see her daughter be her unique own person was so strong that was the perfect way for her to show it. And so in the comics, artist Jamie McKelvey actually based Kamala's costume on his modern redesign of Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. So he's the one to thank for the suit that they carried over into the MCU, where she's more covered. She's the power pantsuit type of thing.
Yeah.
And then he also based it on Dave Cockrum's design of the original Ms. Marvel, which is the one we just talked about, the black bodysuit. So she's kind of like a love child of those suits that Carol wore, with of course her heritage kind of beautifully weaved into it.
Yes,
literally. And Sana Amanat herself stated that Khan's costume, or Kamala's costume, was influenced by the shalwar kameez, a traditional combination dress worn in South Asia and Central Asia. Depending on which country, some men even wear the same garb, which is pretty interesting. And then, of course, the bangles. Originally in the comics, there were multiples. They were hollow bracelets that were made into one single bracelet by Bruno. And then, so that was essentially like one of those things where it's like, well, she's a superhero. Where's she going to put all her stuff? Like, where's she put her cell phone?
Yeah.
And so in the comics, Bruno fashioned it so that big wristlet thing that she has, she can slip her cell phone into it.
So that's important really, for sure.
Yeah, it's really cute because, it's kind of funny. It's an ongoing thing in Spider-Man where he's dropped his phone multiple times. So many times.
Yes.
Gosh, he's just Butterfingers Parker.
It's funny enough, Butterfingers, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, and those bangles themselves were originally apparently used by Aisha to smuggle money out of Bombay during the partition. So they're still handed down in the family, in the comics. And then I don't know if you've seen these, but I'll post the link in our show notes. But the Ms. Marvel costume designer for the MCU is Arjun Basin. And here are some like masks created by artists. I think this is the artist name. Yeah, Musk Rizvi. Where they tried, you gotta love concept art, where they tried all these different masks.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, wow.
Cover.
The full, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so they went through quite a few iterations, which is kind of interesting, right? Like they didn't want the simplicity of just a domino-like mask.
Like just the eye mask or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So they went through like the Captain Marvel-esque helmet.
Yeah.
And then they covered her face entirely, which
I know, that's scary.
Kind of wild. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And then the intricate sort of masks, and then almost of course the classic.
Almost looks like a luchador mask.
Yeah,
almost.
It does.
Yeah.
It's like they really wanted to like fancify the mask and add gold and stuff to it. You can't go wrong with the classics, right? Quote unquote.
It works.
Remy LeBeau. Yeah. So that's kind of it. And I did read a little bit more about what Iman brought to the table, because they were saying how it's important that she could actually use it.
Yeah.
And it was actually like not, it was actually like the dress, so to speak, but she could actually move in it. So that's why they made the slit and why they made the thunderbolt to kind of dissect down the vest the way it does, so that it had actual purpose and she could actually be mobile and she can actually run. And I think the Converse are a cute change too.
It's her. Like
it's very her.
High school, you know, she's still a kid.
Yeah.
So
and,
yeah.
And all the attributes of the costume, all the characteristics of the costume come from somewhere.
Yeah. I like the sash thingy, scarf.
The scarf, yeah.
I love that part.
The one that Red Dagger gives her.
Right. That's who I was like, who'd she get her? Like,
yeah,
she
Red
got
Dagger
Red
gives her the scarf, and then she gets the vest from Walid. And then, the pants are just, her mom fashions everything up.
Love
and,
it.
Yeah.
Love
so
it.
Great. So good. And it looks so accurate. Oh, I have another comparison.
Yeah, that suit looks like
it's so
like it doesn't. It just looks properly made,
and it's so interesting because like I just never would have expected there to be a Ms. Marvel show or anything,
really? But
then to actually see how accurate she is.
Oh,
so
that's crazy.
Yeah, I have a side by side of concept art of Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel next to Ms. Marvel from the comics, and yeah, so you can see like they've made it so she can actually run and be a superhero, but it's still
and it works.
Practical.
Like it works for the MCU. Like,
exactly. Exactly. Like I cannot complain. Like I really can't.
So happy for her.
Yeah, it's so great. It's just really great.
Yeah.
And they really nailed it. I think at least in my perspective, they've really done a good job with tying her into all the things that make Ms. Marvel Ms. Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So in other versions and in other media, Kamala has made an appearance in most major mediums. Like she was in the Marvel Rising cartoon, voiced by Catherine Cavari. I remember I actually went to this panel at Comic-Con. It was in 2019. I remember it very distinctly because I went because Spider-Gwen was in the series.
Okay.
And she's voiced by Dove Cameron in the
okay.
series. And so Catherine was such a big deal because like it was really like the beginnings of Ms. Marvel, like the Ms. Marvel era, at least beyond comics, and because they were also announcing the game.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, this like Pakistani American character is like really coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And getting a place among the greats, if you will. And so at the panel, they gave us all giant foam hands that said "Embiggen" on them.
Oh.
And they made the crowd like yell "Embiggen" like every 5 minutes.
That's sick.
It was really cute. It was really, really cute. But Kamala, like you mentioned, Jeff, is in various video games, including the Avengers one that just came out a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She's in another, she's in a few, really. She's like in a puzzle game. I think she's in the Marvel superhero one on Switch as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one that stands out the most is the Marvel Avengers one, which has a lot of similar characteristics to the MCU and the comic.
Mm-hmm.
She's very high-spirited, loves superheroes. She's going to a convention even.
Yeah.
Like that whole opening scene is just collecting comic books at Avengers Con or whatever they called it in the game. Yeah, and then the inevitable battling alongside with the Avengers.
Crazy.
Which is really cool. So I wonder what we'll see in the MCU. But I did want to mention the Disney Wish footage.
Yeah.
So there's a video of Ms. Marvel fighting alongside not only Captain America, Sam Wilson, but Captain Marvel as well. So we've already kind of seen them on screen together, even though they were not. I think Iman even said, she's like, yeah, I was just talking to like a green ball.
Yeah.
Because they were not in the same room.
Yeah.
But to your point, and I think you said this to me off mic, like a few weeks ago, we were like, when did they film any of it?
Yeah, I'm like, and like, if it was just for the Disney Wish, like segment of, because I know it was a pretty extensive, whatever it was for that cruise specifically.
Yeah.
But to have them actually there, like the actual characters film something for that, and maybe they weren't all together to film, but the fact that they got them to film,
the fact that it's Brie Larson and it's
Anthony Mackie,
and Iman.
Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Iman Vellani,
all of
and
them.
it was kind of just like, holy crap!
That's amazing stuff.
Maybe they filmed this just when they were filming their respective whatevers, you know,
think so,
like how they filmed for the Guardians ride while they were filming Volume 3.
2 and Volume 3 too.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like, just get it in there. But still, like, that's awesome to see them on screen just together.
Yeah.
So.
That was super exciting because I remember I watched it a couple of times because it was posted. The video I saw was posted from, I think, a user in, I don't know, maybe Thailand or even France. And I was like, is this real?
I know. I had to like, because it kept popping up on my Twitter timeline. I was like, what is this? I haven't heard
100%.
anything about this.
And it's Disney Wish. And I'm like, well, maybe I gotta go on a Disney Wish cruise just to see the footage. But it looks really cool. Is Disney Wish canon?
So if we go on that cruise.
Because, and I didn't mention this quite yet, but we have a new listener who is a cast member or an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. of some sort in Avengers Campus. And he works at the PIM Laboratories, the PIM Test Kitchen. His name is Tony.
Tony!
Hi, Tony! And he clarified for me that the Avengers Campus itself is also a different Earth.
Wow.
So it is not MCU, but is very MCU adjacent.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Therefore, and that's why they look a little different.
Well, they have, but
wink,
yes,
wink, wink,
I get
wink.
it. Yes. Imagine just making Simu Liu just showing up every day.
I would love that. But yeah, do you think Disney Wish is quote unquote canon?
Well, I mean, since they show the actual 616 versions, it might be.
Right?
Possibly.
Because I think James Gunn clarified that the Mission Breakout is canon.
This whole talk of canon, man,
Canon!
is
it canon?
it's gonna throw everybody off.
I know.
It's like, so is it canon? I'm like, I don't freaking know. Like, just enjoy it. Just enjoy what's being presented to you.
I'm just curious.
Whenever I see stuff whenever I see like the actors in their characters for another form of media that's not a movie or a show, and it's for like maybe a video game or a theme park or a ride, I'm always like, holy crap, they got them to do this. Like, do you know, like, if you were an actor who has a packed schedule and you're like, hey, can you film this? You know, some people would be like okay, but it's like the fact that they're willing to do it and like, let's do it, we're here. That's dope.
I know.
The fact that they're like, can get the actual actors, A-list actors to be a part of the ride or whatever. It's a huge deal. So I'm always like,
that's why I'm like
when I first went on Guardians, the Guardians ride in California Adventure, I was like, oh my God, that's really them. And I was like,
I think that's why I love it so much, right? And the added flavor of like Webb being Tom Holland as well. Like, oh my God. And so in that aspect, it's crazy to know and imagine and see. The Guardians came back for not only now Mission Breakout, they have come back for the Xandarian,
the Epcot ride, right?
The Epcot ride now too, and so Cosmic Rewind. Because there is one of the soundtracks is called Remix. The other one is the ride is Rewind.
Oh, okay.
Vice versa. I don't know. Whatever. So the Guardians are on 2 rides, but then Chris Pratt himself has also portrayed Owen Grady on the Jurassic World ride, and I think he's in the queue for the Raptor roller coaster in Florida. So Chris Pratt is on.
He just has his face all over the place.
He's all over the place. I was like, yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of just like, dude,
and then lest we forget, there is an Ant-Man and Wasp experience in Hong Kong, and Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly are part of that.
Yeah.
Wild. Who would have thought?
Not me. Not me.
Yes, my man. So
yeah.
It's so cool. I think that's rad. And so, yeah, no, you're right. And I absolutely love it. I hope we see more. And I hope when that new ride that supposedly may happen in Avengers Campus opens, that is all part of it in some way.
There's a big freaking building right in the middle of Avengers
giant
Campus.
building that's not doing
what are we
anything.
doing here?
Giant break room.
Yeah.
So, for the future of the character in the films or shows after Ms. Marvel, what do you... Yeah, so we have the Brie Larson, uncredited, by the way, cameo at the end of the series.
Yeah.
And then Captain Marvel 2, The Marvels, comes out next summer, July 28, 2023. Thoughts? Anything? Do you have any idea?
no idea what to expect.
Yeah, neither do
at
I.
all.
Neither do I.
And this is coming before Secret Invasion?
Yeah.
It's coming before?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So I wonder who they fight. Like,
that could be the start of Secret Invasion, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, the show. You mean the show?
Yes.
I'm thinking Secret Wars. I think so. I think it is because
it's somewhere in the near. Yeah, whether it's after or before.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, because now Captain Marvel is cool with the Skrulls. They're cool. Now it's like it's the Kree
exactly
that are the enemy.
The Skrulls. Wait, the Kree.
The Kree
you're right.
Are
exactly
the enemy.
Right.
The Kree.
The
Kree-enemy.
Are you dropping some? Are you spitting?
I'm trying to find a name for that. It's not working.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, how does Monica come in?
Yeah.
How does
Rambo?
Yeah. Well, we know how Iman and Kamala comes in, but we don't know how. Like they switch places for some reason.
I don't know how and why.
And why?
Carol looked very confused.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh God, why is my face plastered all over these walls?"
Ooh, so it does come after Secret Invasion. So it looks like it's Ant-Man and... Okay, so this is 2023. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, February 17, 2023. Spring is Secret Invasion, followed by Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May.
Yes.
Echo in summer 2023.
Whoa.
Loki Season 2, summer 2023. The Marvels, July 28, 2023. And then it goes from there. Blade, Ironheart, Agatha, Captain America.
Wow.
So, Secret Invasion could pave the way for that. And what happens
Most
in it?
Oh my God. And yes, that's what happened at the end of WandaVision. Holy crap. Remember?
What?
At the end of WandaVision? I think someone calls in like agent, like Captain Rambeau.
Yes.
Like you need to come into the
Yes.
someone wants to talk to you, whatever.
Yeah.
He's a friend of your mother's.
Yes.
And then that
the
agent turns
guy,
into a Skrull.
Yes, that's right.
And so it's like, shoot.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
the Skrulls are coming.
yeah.
I don't think people are going to be ready for this.
I know. Like I think because
Telling
I only
you,
know
man.
a little bit of like the Secret Wars comic and like kind of like the gist of it, where it's like people who come in who invade our Skrulls and they can shapeshift it into literally anybody. So you can't tell who's a bad person.
I mean, like honestly, we might see Chris Evans and
It'd be hilarious.
all of them again.
Just in
But they're
Skrull
Skrulls.
form.
Yeah.
Just like how Nick Fury and Agent Maria Hill were.
Yeah, no, exactly. And even then, it could be a fleeting scene, just like real quick 2 seconds, like, oh my gosh, that was Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Like just to play the mind games.
Yeah.
You know? So but yeah, so I don't know. I have no theories. I just scrolls and that's all.
Waiting for it. Yeah.
Yep. So, do you have any idea or any thoughts of who else could have possibly played?
Literally no one.
Well, that's also exactly who almost got it. Absolutely no one. Because at least no one that we know of, Iman snagged the role after receiving a WhatsApp listing for auditions.
First of all, WhatsApp is the most like...
From her aunt.
Asian thing.
Right? From her aunt. So her auntie was like, oh, Iman, look at this audition. And she looked at the audition And then she got the role. So that's it.
Insane.
Yeah. And then you see like the footage of her screen test. So she went from the audition, she got the call to screen test here in LA. She screen tested. That's all in the assembled episode. And she started that with a self-made tape. So she didn't even go into like she just recorded herself. Amazing. Like that kid. Ugh. Iman, you're the best. I love you. You're the greatest.
I know. If you ever hear this and
Yeah.
if you love and want to talk Marvel with us,
Oh my gosh.
we will take 7 hours out of our day.
I will take vacation days off. I will pick you up. We can get some slushies.
Yes, we can do whatever you want.
Whatever she wants. I will take her to Avengers Campus to meet her variant.
Oh, that'd be great.
Which,
God,
by the
I
way,
wouldn't
yeah,
pay to see that.
I've not seen her yet, but Kamala Khan and Ms. Marvel are walking around. I haven't seen them. Yeah, so it was always meant to be for Iman, thankfully. And then I guess finally some suggested reading. Any Ms. Marvel run, just do it. Like there's 2014, 2015. There's a great one in 2019. Various teams of creators. Her series are pretty fun. And the first 9 issues of the first volume are actually available as Infinity Comics. So if you like that endless scrolling, you can do that now. Also, 2021's Marvel Voices Identity. This one is really great. It features a fantastic creative team, and the issue itself focuses on the handful of Marvel's Asian characters, including Shang-Chi, Jubilee, Jimmy Woo, Pearl Pangan, aka Wave, she's Filipino,
Love that.
and many more. 2019's The Champions, written by Jim Zub, with the art of Stephen Cummings, Marcio Menez, and Eric Arciniega. Follows the younger generation of Marvel superheroes, including Ms. Marvel, Spider-Man, Nova, Braun, aka Amadeus Cho, Vision, Ironheart, Snowguard, aka Amka Aliak, and a whole other slew of characters. And then finally, 2015's all new, all different Avengers, written by Daredevil superstar Mark Waid, with Adam Kubert and Sonia Obak, with covers by Alex Ross. That series, that title is really great because it follows a new rendition of the Avengers team that included Sam Wilson Cap, the Mighty Thor, Vision, Nova, Iron Man, and Miles Morales, Spider-Man.
Wow.
Really good.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the show.
Wow.
Wow.
Our girl Kamala.
Kamala.
Honestly, she's
love
the
her.
best. I can't wait
I'm so
to see her MCU
excited.
future and all these young heroes we're getting.
Her in America. Yes.
We need it. We need a young Avengers
Yeah.
to form at
My
some
gosh,
point.
we're so close.
So close.
So close to having a complete team.
Feige is foaming at the mouth. I can
know.
tell. He's like, yes.
Yeah. You're right. So who we haven't actually chosen next episode, but I will say, like we said at the top of the show, we have some options. So there's Groot.
Yeah.
There is She-Hulk, and then I'm gonna toss one into the vat. Daredevil.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
we can.
And he already has so much
He's so much.
already.
Yes. He's got a film and a half, technically, if you count Elektra. And then the series, 3 seasons.
I forgot about the Ben Affleck.
How dare you? And there's 2. There's a director's edition as well,
Yeah.
which is better, if you ask me. But he's got 2.5 movies. He's got 3 seasons plus a couple of Defenders.
Yes.
He's got a season of Defenders and some other episodes.
Yes.
And then he'll have She-Hulk. So
then his own at some point. But
just saying.
yeah. All right. We'll put it in. We'll keep it in the headspace.
Yeah, we'll keep it there. We are Groot. Salute to Katie, Joe, Liz, Jenny, Ed, Ashley, Ariel, Andrea, Tyler, Robin, Nats, Melanie, Laura, the Arachnerd, Andrew, and Claire. Follow us on social at STRKCNTRST. And if you like what you hear, review, rate, and subscribe.
Woo!
And that's the end of the show.
Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Kamal means marvel.
I share the same name as Carol freaking Danvers.
I don't know who that is. But you